We've all seen them. The villains who should be tragic, but just aren't. Callahan from Big Hero 6 quickly comes to mind. Try as they might, his tragedy didn't really stick. But then there's this guy.
The memories, I want them erased.
With Jinu, we get a fully fleshed out villain whose kind of tragedy has never been seen before. We love Bowler Hat Guy in Meet the Robinsons. He is a great tragic villain, but nothing prepared us for the greatness of Jinu's tragedy. So let's break down exactly why Jinu works as the perfect tragic villain, starting with the world he exists in. K-pop Demon Hunters is a story about music, legacy, and what happens when duty collides with personal choices and flaws. The film introduces us to Huntrix, a trio of pop stars who are more than performers.
But you will be much more than that. You will be hunters.
Every generation, new hunters are chosen to form a barrier or Hanmoon against demons who steal human souls for their god Guima. The hunters have to sing and fight these demons on a regular basis. Each win means that the Hanmoon would continue to grow stronger and keep the demons out. Basically, the fate of humanity depends on the awesome fighting, singing, and rapping skills of 3 chicks that make up Huntrix. These hunters have been successful and were even close to locking out the demons for good with a golden Hanmoon. But then Jinu arrives with his band of demons to ruin everything. However, Jinu is unlike any other demon we meet. Where most of Guima's servants are snarling, monstrous, and pitifully disposable, Jinu carries himself with poise and artistry. But before he became a demon, he was just a kid with a bipa and a dream. He grew up in poverty, caring for his mother and younger sister. His only tool was his music, and a voice that couldn't provide much for his family.
So I busked the streets, but it didn't get me anywhere. I was desperate. We were starving.
It was in this misery that Guima's voice found him. The Demon King promised him a way out, food in his belly, silks on his back, and a place at the palace table. All it would cost was the family he had been fighting for. And Jinu took the deal.
I left them! That's right. I lied to you.
He abandoned the very people who made his music worth playing and started living large. He played music for the king, lived in the palace, and was loved by everyone. Unfortunately, he was never really happy. The fact that he had abandoned his family continued to gnaw at him. And that guilt is what makes him tragic and unforgettable. Unlike most villains who roar about domination, Jinu's wound is internal. He is less driven by a thirst for destruction and more by the ache of memory. He cannot bear the face of his mother and sister in his mind, so he seeks to drown them in Guima's promises. But things were about to get really worse for him. You see, because he had sold his soul to the devil for fame and wealth, the consequences were inevitable. The patterns that usually appear on the bodies of demons began to show on his. This meant he would soon be ostracized by society and condemned to the world of demons. This is what the Demon King has always intended, and soon Jinu joined the other demons in the underworld, where he would serve Guima for all eternity. But if being Guima's servant wasn't the only thing he had been cursed with, it wouldn't have been such a bad thing, at least not entirely. However, the memory of abandoning his family has continued to haunt him for the past 400 years. This has resulted in a fresh desperation in him. He has to forget, and the only person who can help him is the same person who took him out of poverty and brought him into this mess. But what choice does he have? Unfortunately, he couldn't predict what would happen next. At first, it all goes well. Jinu approaches Guima with his master plan by entering with a song. Floating down gracefully, bipa in hand, he playfully mocks the Demon King himself in front of his followers. "There once was a mighty Demon King," he sings, strumming lazily as if telling a bedtime story.
But then some hunters sang some songs. Now all he does is starve.
It's a moment that immediately separates Jinu from the other demons in Guima's court. None of them would dare to taunt their master, but Jinu does it with elegance. However, this doesn't stop Guima from fuming. He knows the truth of the words. The hunter's Hanmoon is closing, a golden barrier that will lock out the demons forever. If it's completed, Guima will be nothing but a shadow, powerless and starving. But where Guima sees doom, Jinu sees opportunity. He suggests something no other demon would think of.
Go after the very thing that powers the Hanmoon, the fans.
His idea is bold, even absurd. A demon boy band to rival the hunter's idol group. But it's clever. Jinu understands fame. He understands the sway of performance, the intoxicating lure of music. Guima hesitates, but Jinu is persuasive. That's if you can call this pose persuasive. Anyway, it works, and with that, the Saja boys are born. However, Jinu isn't offering this plan for free. He knows what he wants in return, and it isn't power or treasure. So, when Guima says that in 400 years, Jinu has never done a single thing that didn't serve himself, Jinu's answer comes out quiet, but pained and desperate.
The memories, I want them erased.
This single line reveals the heart of this tragedy. Dude just wants silence. He wants the faces of his mother and sister gone from his mind, the guilt of abandoning them scrubbed clean. Guima, of course, never intends to grant it. He knows that Jinu's pain is what keeps him loyal, but Jinu clings to the hope that if he succeeds, if he brings in enough souls and wins enough applause, he will finally be allowed to forget. With that, Jinu and his band leave for Earth, where they would meet Huntrix for the first time. Initially, it's just a group of striking boys walking past. Pink hair, sky blue hair, lilac bangs falling across one face. Two of the Huntrix girls, Mira and Zoe, are immediately smitten, but the third, and their lead singer, Rumi, is not. Then, everything slows down. Rumi locks eyes with a handsome black-haired boy. He bumps into her, sending her box of tonics tumbling. She expects him to help her up, but instead, he just brushes his shoulder and says flatly,
Watch yourself.
This was all the first impression Rumi needed to label Jinu a douchebag. Unfortunately, she and her girl band didn't know all the gist yet. Moments later, the girls hear music. They turn a corner and find the same boys now performing as a full-blown idol group. The song Soda Pop is annoyingly catchy, pulling the girls into its rhythm against their will. Even Zoe starts dancing before pretending she wasn't. But the charm quickly fades when the girls see demon patterns appear on their arms.
They're magicians.
It is obvious now. The boys are trying to steal their fans and had to be killed. But when Huntrix attack the boys, something incredible happens. While Rumi and Jinu are fighting, her leather suit ripped, revealing the patterns on her arms. Jinu notices immediately. He pushes her back, wraps a bandage around her arm to hide the marks instead of exposing them. For all his manipulation, he doesn't tell the others. When Guima complains from the underworld that he couldn't control her despite the patterns, Jinu tells him that this was an advantage. He emphasizes that her shame is a crack he can pry open and weaponize. Jinu plans to break Rumi's confidence, expose her patterns, and turn her into the leverage that will undo Huntrix. He then arranges their first real encounter with precision, luring Rumi in with his messenger crow and blue tiger. When she confronts him, he wastes no time pressing on the very thing she tries to hide: the demon markings that set her apart from the other hunters. He frames it as a shared wound, claiming he understands what it feels like to carry such marks and to live with shame carved into the skin. Then, in a carefully rehearsed confession, he spins the story of his family. He tells her how he once struggled in poverty. He paints a picture of desperation, of starvation, and of a boy who could do nothing for the people he loved until Guima promised him a way out. What he does not tell her is the whole truth, that he abandoned his family. By lying about his past, Jinu presents himself as a victim of circumstance, someone cursed with pain she could relate to. It's manipulation at its most subtle. Rumi might still show some hostility, but you can tell she was starting to fall for him and his lies. It is working, and Jinu can feel victory starting to draw near. Soon, the memories would be gone, and he would finally be free. But this is where it really gets interesting. This is where Jinu really became the perfect tragic villain. By the time he joins Rumi and Huntrix at the signing booth, his plan is already running like clockwork. Saja Boy's fever is everywhere, missing persons reports are tripling, and the Hanmoon is crumbling. But this is also the point where Jinu's careful performance starts to unravel. While sharing a seat with Rumi, something inside him starts to shift. He tells her he's working for Guima because that's the only way to silence the voices in his head. She calls him pathetic. He shoots back that she can't even talk about her patterns. It's their most honest exchange yet, a collision between two people both living in shame. But what makes the moment sting is that he's still lying. Rumi has no idea he's already moved the chess pieces to isolate her, break her from her group, and expose her. And yet, as she stomps on his foot and spits her hatred for demons and Guima, you can feel the flicker of a bond forming between them. Then, a little girl gifts Jinu a painting that says, "Jinu, you have a beautiful soul." The word soul gnaws at him the most, especially because he is a demon who is heralding innocent souls to Guima. This is where things start to become even more complicated for him. Jinu is already a tragic villain at this point, and he knows. But instead of just accepting his fate as a bad person, looking to be free from the responsibilities of his past mistake, the story plunges him deeper into tragedy by guilt-tripping him. Then there was the romantic tension already forming between him and Rumi. Dude couldn't just take a break. The two meet again, and she proposes that if Jinu helps them win the Idol Awards, the Hanmoon will be sealed forever. Guima will be cut off, and both of them could finally be free. She will be free of her markings, and he of his voices. She tells him he made a mistake, but mistakes can be redeemed. Except Jinu deflects because he knows he didn't tell her the whole truth about his past. And yet, when she turns to walk away, he stops her because he can't help himself.
I was just trying to get the bracelet.
Later, when Rumi visits him, the scene feels almost domestic. Two people in the middle of chaos finding a strange, quiet rhythm together. Rumi finally lets down her guard. She tells him how hiding her shame has been destroying her voice, and how talking to him has somehow healed it. Then she sings, and Jinu joins in. Then they have a precious moment, and something unspoken passes between them. Anyway, it's in that moment that Jinu feels the silence for the first time. Guima's voice is gone. The weight he carried for 400 years lifts, just enough for him to believe that maybe Rumi is right. Maybe the Hanmoon can free him, and maybe he's not doomed after all. He promises to make sure the Saja boys lose the following day. It's the first real promise he's made that isn't a trick. But another tragedy of Jinu is that Guima is always listening. When he is dragged back into the demon realm, the facade cracks completely. Guima mocks him, reminding him of the truth he's tried to bury.
Don't think you can escape what you are.
Because of this, Jinu betrays Rumi by exposing her secret on stage and finally admitting that he actually abandoned his family. Still, Rumi pleads with him to fight it, to believe that he's more than his demon side, but he refuses. He tells her that all that demons get to do is live with their misery.
That's all we deserve.
From here, everything spirals. The Hanmoon collapses, the Idol Awards are cancelled, and Mira and Zoe are hypnotized and drawn to Namsan Tower, where Guima is waiting to steal their souls. However, deciding not to hide her flaws anymore, Rumi comes to the rescue. The girls reunite on stage for a final stand, their voices rising in defiance, and as they sing and fight, the spell begins to break. Then, at the very edge, when Guima unleashes his deadly beam at Rumi, Jinu steps in. He's just a man who's finally stopped running from his shame. He blocks the blast, knowing exactly what it will cost him. He apologizes to her and tells her that she has set him free. Then, he gives her the only thing he has left.
I give it to you.
To be honest, this wasn't exactly a clean redemption, and neither does it erase what he's done, which is what makes it all the more tragic, because Jinu is a guy who wanted to feed his family, but ended up losing himself before spending 4 centuries trying to forget. And now he just gets to make one last choice, the one he couldn't make all those years ago. But could his redemption be the only reason why Jinu worked as a tragic villain? Well, it turns out that it isn't. There are several other reasons why his character will go down in history as one of the best written tragic villains. Jinu works because the movie trusts the audience to feel him without spelling everything out. We learn the facts, his bipa, the marks spreading across his skin, his bargain with Guima, but the film never wastes time over-explaining the pain. That restraint matters. His misery is visible in small things, in the way he plays, and in the single line about what he wanted most.
The memories, I want them erased.
Those facts give you the core of him. You see the wound, rather than a long lecture about it. That's why his suffering reads as real and not manipulative. It feels like a life lived and a choice made, instead of a plot device placed at the last minute. Because of that, his betrayal lands as personal. Dude walked away from people he loved to buy himself a life. And that particular kind of selfishness is more terrible than a monstrous rage. It's the sort of moral failure you recognize in yourself when you are honest. It's a collapse of duty and trust rather than some gleeful lust for power. The result is that when he weaponizes music and fame to feed Guima, you can hate the facts but still understand the impulse behind them. Jinu's final act also makes a lot of sense. It is simultaneously selfless and unbearably honest, and that tension keeps the ending from feeling sentimental. He dies admitting his wrongs and making a choice that costs him everything. When he transfers his soul to Rumi and says, in effect, that she set him free, and now he gives himself to her. That act reframes him without erasing his sins. He chooses to repair what he once destroyed, even though he knows this cannot buy him redemption in the ledger of deeds. That ambiguity is crucial. A perfect tragic villain must not be cleaned up by a tidy sacrifice. Jinu's last deed is messy and true, and it hurts because we remember the years of harm that preceded it. Now, compare Jinu to Professor Callahan in Big Hero 6. The latter feels like a cautionary example of what happens when the emotional structure is weak. The film gives him a powerful motive, grief over his daughter, but it relies on a late twist to convert that pain into malice without enough earlier interior work. Callahan's revenge makes sense on paper, but it never feels fully earned. The film tells us why he's broken instead of showing it. So, his villainy comes off as plot-driven rather than character-driven. In short, his turn is neither effective as a twist nor as a tragic villain. Jinu avoids that trap by living his history in the script. His failure is dramatized in repeated moments. His bargaining, his tenderness toward music, and so his arc feels earned rather than engineered. Part of why Jinu's tragedy also works is his design and detail. He is crafted to be readable in silhouette. He looks like someone who could have been on stage with Huntrix. His robes, his long hair, the bipa, these are costume choices that suggest the life he might have had. Those artistic choices make his fall feel inevitable and tragic because they constantly remind you of the road not taken. But while Jinu teaches you how to write a perfect tragic villain, there are 3 villains who would teach you how to write a psychopath the right way. This video exposes these villains and delivers some shocking revelations.